What's up guys, my name is Matt from Magic the Greatening, and today I'm bringing you my spin on green-red Stompy. Like all other Stompy decks, this one is designed to play creatures on curve and punish decks that even slip up a little on mana or placing creatures on curve as well as we did. Since I didn't have a budget restriction on this deck list like I usually do, the deck is rather expensive. It'll cost over $300 for both main and sideboard, or about 150 tickets for Moto. Don't be scared by the price tag though, this deck is expensive for good reason. It's really good. In testing I went 6-2 with the version I'm showing you today. If you want more details like what matchups I faced, make sure to check the description. Before we get into it, make sure to check out my sponsor over at flipsidegaming.com. You're going to be buying Magic singles anyway, so if you want to support me and this channel even more, go over to their website and order your cards using my promo code GREAT to get 10% off all purchases over $10. You're buying cards, saving money, and helping me out all at the same time. Again, that's flipsidegaming.com using my promo code GREAT when you're checking out your order. Alright, let's get into it. I decided to go with an energy package when making this deck. You know, because energy may possibly be the most overpowered mechanic in Standard right now. Anyway, we're playing the classic 4 copies of both Attune with Ether and Harness Lightning. Attune with Ether is our optimal turn 1 play in this deck, despite us having 8 other 1-drops. It generates and stores energy for us to use later in the game while fixing our mana at the same time. It also allows us to play less lands in the deck, so you're more likely to draw into gas later in the game. I originally wanted to play Lightning Strike in the spot of Harness Lightning, but I realized that would just be plain stupid. Why even play energy in a deck that runs red if you aren't playing Harnessed Lightning? Kills all levels of threats throughout the game at instant speed for only 2 mana. It's just simply the best removal card we could play in this deck. Now let's talk about the creatures. We're playing 4 copies of Greenbelt Rampager, 4 copies of Rigging Runner, 4 copies of Voltaic Brawler, and 4 copies of Long Tusk Cub. Like I said before, we have an energy theme throughout this deck, so we'll be playing creatures that benefit from stored energy. Voltaic Brawler is a rather big 2-drop that can help with the early game push, as well as be a threatening body late in the game. Long Tusk Cub is a card that, if it's not dealt with immediately, it'll get out of hand and win you the game rather quickly. Greenbelt Rampager cannot be played on turn 1, unfortunately, but it's still a really strong 1-drop that is still relevant late in the game. And Rigging Runner is in here to force through chump blockers and help apply some early pressure. Again, this card can't be played on turn 1 if you want to get its +1 counter bonus from the raid mechanic. I may have people complain about Rigging Runner in the comments, especially in a deck that plays no actual turn 1 creatures, and if that's the case for you, you can replace Rigging Runner with Ripjaw Raptor. It makes our curve slightly more awkward and makes us less aggro card draw. Quick note here before I move on, we're playing Ronus the Indomitable in the deck, but he can't attack with Voltaic Brawler's activated ability of getting his 4th power. That's a trigger that you activate on an attack, in which case it's too late to also attack with Ronus. Just keep that in mind. As for the last few creatures we're playing in the deck, we're playing 4 copies of Deathgorge Scavenger, 3 copies of Rampaging Ferocidon, 3 copies of Ronus the Indomitable, and 2 copies of Glorybringer. Let me talk about Rampaging Ferocidon because I feel like he looks the most out of place in this deck. First of all, we are a Stompy deck. We need to push damage through as quickly as possible before our opponent kills us or stabilizes. Ferocidon is one of the best creatures for that. He stops life gain, which some decks sideboard, and he deals damage to a creature's owner whenever that creature enters the battlefield. This card punishes token decks and life gain decks, which usually go hand in hand, and it puts out a 3/3 menace, all for 3 mana. I really like the performance of this card, and I'm confused of why no one else plays this card, even in sideboards. As for the other creatures, Deathgorge Scavenger is Graveyard Hate on a 3-drop, and it's reoccurring Graveyard Hate as well. It also gains us some life, which is actually relevant in the Standard right now, since all decks being played are mid-range and aggro. Ronus is just a big, stupid god with a decent activated ability. And finally, Glorybringer. What red deck doesn't run this card? It's a Flying Haste 4/4 that is also removal. He also has enough power on his own to give Ronus the ability to block and attack, which is really nice. We got 2 more cards to talk about now before we go over the land and sideboard. We're playing 4 copies of Blossoming Defense and 2 copies of Chandra Torch of Defiance. I was originally playing Lightning Strike instead of Blossoming Defense here because I wanted more removal, and the ability just to hit 3 in the face. However, I switched to Blossoming Defense because it's really important to keep our creatures alive in this deck. Most of our creatures have further purpose than just smashing face, so I'd like to be able to protect our annoying creatures from dying. Also, it's a 1-mana pump spell that can help push damage as well. And then there's Chandra, another auto include in the deck. There's a reason why she's really expensive right now. A 4-mana Planeswalker that starts with 4 loyalty and with 4 seemingly different abilities is good without really much explanation. We all know how good Chandra is. Let's briefly go over the lands like we usually do. We're playing 4 Aether Hub, 3 Rootbound Crag, 3 Sheltered Thicket, 5 Forest, and 3 Mountain. Now I know that's only 18 lands, but we're also playing 4 Tune with Aether, which really means we're playing 22 lands, which is right in this deck. Now our sideboard here is less hate for other decks and more for adapting our deck to turn into more of a mid-range deck. We're playing 4 Bristling Hydra because this card is bonkers not only against control, but against other mid-range and aggro decks. 1 more Chandra Torch of Defiance because the more Chandras the better. 2 more Glorybringers for further transforming our deck into a mid-range deck. 4 Heroic Intervention for protection against sweepers, specifically Fumigate and Bontu's Last Reckoning, which are getting a lot of play right now. And 4 Magma Spray to finish it out against aggro and decks that run a lot of recursion. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Next deck tech will be Temur Prowess, so there will be no voting for this video. Anyways, I do hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in the next one.